doesn't say on the air yet.
He's good. Yep.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the February 10th meeting of the Commission on Aging Well. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And first agenda item is approval of the minutes. Everybody has had a chance to review those. Are there any additions or corrections at this time? If not, do I hear a motion for approval?
Raise your hands.
I would move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes are passed. We have no public appearances, so we will move right away to the North Fish Hatchery Hub proposal.
I assume that's me, Jill or Chair?
That's you, Wade. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yep. Thanks for having me. I think I know most of you, not Wade Thompson with City Planning Department. Scott Endel, our Parks Director, is here as well, and he'll probably chime in at some point. Just bear with me here. I'm going to share my screen. All right, so we're here to give the committee or the commission an update on the North Fish Hatchery Road Hub project, and I believe the commission is fairly familiar with the project. I think we might have been here a while back to kind of give you an overview of the concept, and it's a project we've been working on for a long time, something I'm personally really excited about, and we're kind of moving towards the final design here, and certainly wanted to check in with relevant committees and make sure folks are up to speed and get maybe some general impressions on the final design. So with that, I'll just kind of kick things off here. So again, I just want to give folks kind of a reminder of why we're doing this project. It is a big project for the city, and just want to kind of put it in some context. And then we'll talk about just to give you a quick overview of how we got to this point, and then we'll talk specifically about the final design of what we're calling phase one. And then certainly we can have a discussion as the commission sees fit. Again, this is a project related to our Healthy Neighborhoods initiative. And again, I won't spend a lot of time on that, but that initiative is about just kind of doing better as a city in terms of investing and serving our residents in 3 of our northern neighborhoods. And one of those neighborhoods is the one we'll talk about today, the North Fish Hatchery Road neighborhood. So again, just some context about that neighborhood. I kind of consider it our gateway. It's one of the most heavily trafficked corridors in the region, approximately 50,000 cars per day. It has approximately 11% of our city's population, and there's more on the way. There's imminent development up there and stuff that'll happen in the next couple of years as well. It does share a border with City of Madison to the north. It is 100% multifamily residential. There's literally no single family homes in that neighborhood. There's also some very, what I'll call strip commercial properties as well. And I think very importantly, there's literally no developed city park space in that whole neighborhood. So with that in mind, we want to develop some park space in that neighborhood, in particular this hub site. So the hub site is about 3.5 acres. Kind of in the heart of the neighborhood. And I think in my head, there's kind of 2 main project goals. We really want to meet the social, recreational, and resource needs of that neighborhood, as well as attract the broader community to that site, to that neighborhood. We also wanted the hub to serve as kind of a stabilizing catalyst for the neighborhood, hopefully spurring new investment and kind of boosting property values, but making sure we don't displace the folks that live there and want to stay there in the future. So we've really engaged on this thing. I mean, I think the key to any successful planning project is engagement with the neighborhood and the broader community. So we took a lot of non-traditional ways to engage with the community. We used our neighborhood navigators to really get out there and try to get a sense of what this hub should look like. And that's reflected in the final design that we'll talk about. We also did have a little work group the past couple months composed of various stakeholders. We did invite a senior representative to sit on that work group. And we've also had some what I'll call design partners, basically third parties that are kind of interested in supporting this project at various levels. So that engagement led us to a concept which we developed over a year ago. I think you guys saw that. And then that concept, the next step is to take that from concept to final design. And again, that's what we're here to talk about today. And just to remind people, the hub project is, again, in our North Fish Hatchery Road neighborhood. So just to give people some orientation here, North Fish Hatchery Road is running perpendicular. If people can see my cursor kind of to the right off the screen there. And then Traceway Drive, again, runs perpendicular to North Fish Hatch. Leopold School is just to the north off of Post Road on the map, off the map. And then our city golf course, I think folks probably know where that is. That's on the south side of Traceway Drive, just below that orange box. Again, that for some context, that new senior apartment building, the High Line, that's this big white box here. Again, if that helps people orientate. So the hub has two phases, a phase one, which is the blue, north side of Traceway Drive, phase two, south side, the orange. And I would call phase one basically enhanced park space. And again, we'll talk about what that means. And then phase two is kind of a ways out in terms of timeline, but that's more, will be more of a traditional community center type facility. So there's four main components in phase one. First component is a community or what I'll call a park building. And in my head, it's really a new model for buildings at our community parks. I think it will allow for a lot of different use, use by city staff, use by city residents, use by probably some folks on this call today. So I think that's something really cool that we can talk about. We also are envisioning what we're calling an outdoor covered hard court that could potentially have an ice rink. So basically it would be a year-round recreation and social gathering facility. And we'll show you some pictures of what that looks like. But basically an outdoor space that could serve rec purposes, but also social purposes, whether it's, farmers markets or movie nights, little concerts, all those sorts of things. And then the third big piece is just kind of what we'll call playground and kind of our yard games, socializing areas, serving both youth and adults, the whole spectrum of residents in our community. And then the fourth piece we think is pretty cool, pretty unique. And that's what we're calling an all wheels track. Basically a kind of I guess I'll call it an obstacle course. Again, we'll show you pictures, but kind of a track that can serve pretty much any recreational kind of vehicle with wheels, whether it's bikes or skateboards or scooters. We think it's a unique feature, not just in our park system, but in the region as well. So just in terms of next steps, and we'll maybe talk more at the end about that as well. But, we're, again, moving towards final design. I would say we're probably 99% close to that goal. We still have a couple, I's to dot, T's to cross, and certainly are interested in hearing what this commission thinks at this point. But we are envisioning some public engagement opportunities yet to come. COVID makes things a little difficult, but we hope to get out to the neighborhood at least, one more time to check in with them. And then obviously we're spending this month kind of going to our different committees and again, getting those folks up to speed. And then in February, we will check in with our park commission again, or excuse me, in March. We did check in with them this past month and kind of got their sense of design, and then we'll have to fit the design into our budget. There'll be some kind of maneuvering there to make sure we can get stuff paid for. And then once we get that all figured out, we'll check in with council, get final direction from them, and then come spring of this year, break ground on our phase one. So with that, I'd like to just quickly, well, not quickly, but just give you guys a sense of what that design looks like. And again, this is kind of our site plan. Just bear with me here. Okay, so again, Traceway Drive is kind of the gray strip there, the road down on the south. And then kind of looking at the site, we've got a parking lot here to get, people to the site. This is that outdoor structure that I talked about, that big square or the big rectangle here. And we'll show you more pictures of that. To the right of that is that community building that I talked about. Again, we think it's a really cool concept that can serve a lot of needs and provide a lot of resources in the neighborhood. And then we've kind of got this, we call it kind of the pedestrian spine. It could serve as, kind of accessing the site, but there's also places to sit and hang out, read a book. And we'll show you pictures of that as well. And then to the right of that, a playground feature. We're still working on the details of that, but we think it'll be a really neat feature that'll attract, kids to the site. And then kind of this gray area to the right, and then all these kind of curves, that's our bike track, our all wheels track. And again, we'll probably show you a little bit more pictures on that as well. And then to the right are just some, excuse me, images of what the site could look like once it's built out. So again, this is our pump track. You probably see some images, that kind of give you a better idea of what we're talking about. And this really is an emerging trend, kind of in the park planning industry. Madison is doing similar stuff in their system, but we think this is a really unique feature. We've actually partnered with expert bike pump track planning consultants, so that's pretty much all these guys do. And they did the track at Madison Park as well. So we feel like it's a really good design, something that'll really attract, kids and maybe adults to the site as well. And I'd like to point out here too, we do have I talked about design partners. We actually have Saris, which is a local Fitchburg-based biking related company. They make bike racks, among other things. They've been talking about these kind of things in parks for years and have been trying to promote them. So when they learned of what we were up to, we connected, and they've been part of our planning since day one. And I think we're still talking details, but I think we'll bring some level of financial support to this part of the project. So that's pretty exciting as well. And then again, here's some other images of, kind of the pump track. I think what I want to point out here is we're definitely thinking of a paved surface. Some of these images showed dirt, but paved will might be a little bit more upfront, but in terms of, life cycle of the feature maintenance, in the long run, it's much more beneficial in terms of cost and just durability. So moving into a few other features, again, this is kind of the floor plans of both that outdoor covered structure and then our building. And then as it relates to the outdoor structure, again, I think you can kind of see how it could be set up for a lot of different things. So it could do full court basketball, could also do, a couple pickleball tennis courts. And then again, could also serve as, kind of a covered space for various, social type events. And then moving into kind of the building concept, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. So the bottom of the screen, that's again the south part of the site, Traceway Drive. So you would, front entrance is on the bottom of the screen. And then again, it's almost set up kind of like a little community center in my head. I think certainly kind of serves the park shelter purpose, but then takes it to that next step. So you kind of an entryway. We envisioned a little info desk. We have some part-time city staff. They're also neighborhood residents. We call them neighborhood navigators. Their role is to just kind of help connect residents to resources. So we envision, maybe they'll have office hours, kind of serve as a friendly face here to help, people orientate the site, or if they need resources related to other things, they'd kind of be a face there. And then we do have an office space planned, kind of a flex space. It could potentially house city staff. It could be reservable for neighborhood service providers. So if a social worker, needs a place to meet with a client outside of their office or their home, they could reserve that space. And we also envision, maybe a little information area for residents. So if someone needs to shoot off a resume or whatever, we'd have maybe a computer or two in there that they could reserve or use. And then obviously restrooms moving to the north there. And then just kind of some of the boring stuff, storage, mechanical. And then we do envision a warming kitchen up here that could serve both the picnic area, which we'll show you images of on the northern part of the site here, as well as kind of serve these meeting rooms. And we also have built we're kind of scaled the warming kitchen to eventually allow for a concession. So if we get someone up there that, selling coffee or whatever it might be, we have capacity for that as well. And then our meeting rooms, again, I think that's kind of the core of the heart of the site, or the heart of the building. 2 meeting rooms, pretty good size. Could host a lot of different things, whether it's reservable for family events. It could be adult education. It could be, senior related programming, whatever that might look like. 2 rooms that could be reserved, together or separately. We're envisioning a partition. And then we're envisioning one of the rooms having a little bit of technology, so a screen if we're talking more classroom education type stuff. And then I think we are envisioning too the meeting room to this northerly room, assuming the building is staffed, with a presence there. When this room isn't reserved, it could almost serve as like a lounge type area, be open to the public just to kind of hang out and again, read a book or socialize, whatever it might be. So that's kind of our goal there. And then getting into some images of the site. And again, I think our architect did a real nice job putting these together here, if they'll load for me. So this is, again, on Traceway Drive, looking east, I guess it would be. This is that outdoor structure I talked about. Again, you kind of see the mock-ups for some rec use. The building is kind of to the far side of the screen there. Oops. And this is looking the other way. So we're looking west now on Traceway Drive. This is the other side of the structure. And I just want to point out here, this is kind of where we envision, setting up for community events. Again, if we're talking movie nights or concerts, folks could set up here and project this way. And then another little nice piece of the design is kind of this wall. We're envisioning like a mural wall. So obviously an opportunity for public art, maybe getting the neighborhood involved, school kids at some level to kind of help design that, maybe annually or whatever it might be. So again, I think a neat feature of the site. And this gives you a better sense of the building and kind of the relationship of the building to that outdoor structure. Again, there'll kind of be that nice flow from the outdoor structure to our building. And just a couple kind of maybe architectural thoughts here. So we did try to mimic the existing city architecture. We tried to make it look like a lot of our other city facilities to kind of create that uniformity in city facilities. We also did want to create more of an urban form. That corridor is, from a planning perspective, very urban. So we wanted to make sure our design fit in with that as well. And then you can see kind of the playground, off to the right here. And then kind of at the back of the site, that's where that pump track would lay out. And I think this is a really nice visual. We want to make this thing year round, 24/7 use. Our goal is to get an ice rink in there. There's still some discussion there on, with budget and those sorts of things. But, that would be a goal too, to get kind of year round use of the site. And again, I think something that would really attract the broader community to this site. And this is a rendering at the back of the building looking south towards Traceway Drive. You can kind of see again how the outdoor structure kind of ties into the building. We've got our serving window here. This is a covered picnic area that again could be reserved to kind of feed into that indoor area as well. Another image, again, looking at the back of the site, south towards Traceway Drive. This is where you can really see that pedestrian spine, kind of the thing that, again, kind of ties the whole site together. You can see a lot of windows not a lot of natural light, on the back of the building. This is at folks have probably seen it. It's like those retractable garage doors that you can kind of pull up. If the weather's nice, you could certainly keep that thing open. And then again, just the point with this space is just socializing areas, places where people can just kind of hang out and congregate. So we're envisioning a fire pit as kind of the focal point of that outdoor space. And then I think this is getting close to our last image. So again, this would be looking, I apologize for my slow loading here. So I guess this is kind of looking kind of northwest, I guess. Again, you start to see the playground here in relationship to that spine in the building. And then again, the pump track is kind of off to the top of the screen. And then just another image, again, kind of showing front entranceway. And then just a quick cross section of our building. Again, this would be, kind of as you enter the facility, kind of a nice corridor that we envision. Again, maybe opportunities for public art, getting the neighborhood involved, and maybe we have some rotating, artwork in this corridor. And then on the left there, that's where you see that office space. Again, could serve a lot of different uses. And then on the right is where we have our community rooms. And again, you start to see maybe the kind of the scale of those rooms. I think with that, I'm done. And again, our goal was to, again, just keep this commission, up to speed. I think, I've been talking with Jill throughout this planning process, and we want this facility to serve the neighborhood and the community and everyone in the neighborhood and the community. So obviously this commission is an important part of our community in terms of your demographic, and to whatever degree, we can make this site appealing to that demographic, we want to do that. So with that, I can certainly take any questions or comments that the group might have.
Yes, this is Jim. I really like what we've got here so far. There's a lot of thoughts put into it, and moving right along. I do have some things that you might want to consider. That I like that bike track thing, and I can just imagine grandkids going biking on that and saying, "Grandpa, watch me do this," or whatever. And I was wondering if you had considered any kind of like an observation area for parents and grandparents to watch the kids as they're tooling around on that thing.
Yep, great point. And actually we have, and what I'm going to kind of pan to that. So if you see this little area here, this number 3, that blue kind of polygon or whatever it is,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
that is, so we have an image of that. That's the I guess we'll call it like a shade structure. So like basically a sitting area and observation area. So basically you could have parents, grandparents sitting here, and they can literally have eyes on pretty much every activity, node on this side of the property. So, younger kids could be on the playground, older kids could be on the pump track. We have a little yard games over here. So yeah, this would kind of be that kind of central observation area. We could have a lot of different viewing angles. And then again, this number 4, it's a little bit removed from the pump track, but more focused on the playground in the building. But this number 4 again is kind of another sitting or just observing area. And then we do also envision, again, some benches and seating kind of along this number 1 and 2, and then even some benches probably embedded within the playground itself. And then just kind of wrapping up that idea, I think we're still kind of talking about, what the outdoor structure could look like in terms of observation. I think we'll probably maybe have some movable bleachers, that sort of thing. But yeah, certainly are cognizant of, kind of creating those just sitting areas for people to kind of hang out and watch activity. So, yep.
Okay, good, thanks. Another item that I had on this was you're talking about ice rink and winter usage, and I'm wondering, are you are you gonna have like a warming area, and are the bathrooms gonna be open?
Yep, yep, so we envision the bathrooms being open, whenever, basically during normal park hours. And
Because
if the
they're
building,
not at McKee right now, they're not open, are they?
and maybe I'll let Scott chime in on that. But maybe to your point quickly about a warming hut, yeah, I think we're envisioning, again, assuming we can staff the building. I think we kind of talked about that lounge area. So that would probably be open to, to folks using the ice rink. So we're still working out some of those management operational elements, but yeah, the goal is to, you know, get people to use the site, and we understand that when people are using the site, we have to have certain things accessible. So those are all things we're still kind of discussing. But Scott, I don't know if you want to chime in on just bathrooms or.
And maybe just a quick comment about the bathrooms. We are able, the McKee Farms Park shelter is heated year round. So in theory, we could open up those bathrooms, and this building will have the same feature where if, we have someone there and the skating rink is being used, that the bathrooms will be available to the public. There's both indoor access to the bathrooms from the building and exterior access from the outside into the bathroom. So that's a good point.
Okay, and my third one, I heard, I hope I'm not bothering everybody here. My third one, that I heard you say the word concerts, and I'm concerned about noise. Right now, McKee Farms Park has concerts there. You can hear them all the way over past Great Dane, and I'm concerned that if you start having concerts at the hub, that noise control would be a concern.
Yeah, nope, that's valid, and if we do go down that route, we'd have to check in with the neighborhood and neighbors and our police department and sound permits and all that kind of stuff. But I think the broader point is, just the idea of programming the site. So we don't have a program menu set up yet, but I think the point is, for the level of city investment in this thing, we need to program the site. We need stuff to happen up there. And that's really the goal of the site, is to create an activity center for the neighborhood and the broader community. So a lot of those things will be, again, kind of fleshed out. And yeah, maybe concerts aren't the right fit, or maybe they're very limited, during certain times of the year. But yeah, those are things that we'll certainly address.
And maybe just one additional comment. Certainly this venue here would lend itself to better management of the sound compared to McKee, is, where they have the concerts and the bands, if you would. It's pretty wide open, but underneath the covered structure, I think would give us the ability to manage that neighborhood sound, if you would.
And just one other point on that, we did consider that. We tried to orientate the site in a manner that the sound was projected in the most appropriate way, so that was considered as well. And I don't feel bad. This is exactly why we're here. I appreciate the questions, and I'm happy to take
more
any
comments,
more.
the better. Yep.
Yep.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
This is Marcia Griskovich from the Fitchburg Senior Center Friends. My question is, will there be restrictions on the type of, I'll say, vehicle that can go on these bike trails? For instance, can I bring my electric whatever, scooter or bike or whatever?
Good question. So, once we kind of keep moving forward with final design, we'll probably check back with our bike planning consultants. Again, they're experts on this thing. I mean, they know all the ins and outs of this stuff. So we'll check in with them on that. And I envision we'll probably have some regulations kind of posted, on site in terms of what's allowable. I don't have a good answer for you right now on, electric bikes, but just maybe to kind of take that one step further. One thing we are trying to do in the design is make this thing all wheels and let's say all ability levels. So just bear with me here. So just to kind of orientate folks on what this thing will ultimately look like. So this gray area, this kind of darker gray, again, that's kind of your access point off of kind of Traceway Drive, and we'll have a wide path here, so there'll be lots of, you know, safety elements that we'll address in terms of folks getting into the track. So this is what we're calling, I don't know the exact term, but it's kind of like it's an entrance to the track, but it's also a feature in itself. So it'll have some rolling and undulations, but, you know, kind of basic stuff. And then once you get through that, we'll kind of have this beginner element, which is kind of this lighter tan. And then these other loops are kind of more advanced intermediate stuff. So I could see some, you know, kind of beginner, just more leisurely stuff happening to the east side of the site. And then, you know, folks want to take it to the next level, they'll kind of go to the western side of the site. So yeah, I mean, I think there's options here to get everyone on this track. And then we'll probably just, check in with our consultants and kind of confirm, you know, restrictions and, you know, how we kind of educate people on, you know, who could be using that feature. So, yeah.
And I might add, Marcia, certainly we're not going to let people with mini bikes and motorcycles and those kinds of things, but certainly residents that have limited, they may be restricted to a wheelchair or a motorized wheelchair or those kinds of things. This would be designed specifically for those types of uses. That's really for the reason behind the hard surface, and, instead of the soil, where it certainly is going to be available and accessible to reasonable uses. So I might leave it at that.
Just one more question, or maybe a couple more questions. Similar, a follow-up question to Marcia's question. As we look at the needs of an aging population, is there any flat surface, and maybe there's a walking site in that area that I'm just not aware of, but is there any flat surface for walker or for individuals just wishing to walk?
So, bear with me here. I kind of earlier I mentioned kind of our mantra is creating, something for everyone. To that point though, the site it's small, it's 3.5 acres, and, we try to get as much in there as we could. At this point we don't really we did discuss kind of like a walking circuit. I guess there's a lot of flat areas, maybe not serving as like a walking circuit, but certainly I think, a lot of accessibility in that regard. One thing we are thinking about, and I'm going to go to we still do, again, have a phase 2, which is the south side of Traceway Drive. And again, I realize we have a road barrier here, but, we have various options, I think, down here. I talked about a bigger building down here. For that to happen, we would need to acquire some land we don't currently have. We hope that happens, but we'll see. But we do own this property here. And I think at a minimum, we're trying to think about ways to make this more of a traditional park space. So, more of a green space. So I could see, on the southern side of the property, maybe focusing on some more of those kind of, traditional park elements. And then even to the point of trying to incorporate our golf course at some level. So we own all this. And Scott and I have talked in the past about, some kind of trail circuit around that golf course. And I think that planning is a little bit off in the future. But I think to your broader point, when this site ultimately comes together in terms of phase 1 and phase 2, we hope to add some of those elements that you're getting at as well.
Well, and I might add, certainly there is going to be, on the north side of Traceway, there is a sidewalk or a path, if you would, that would get to North Fish Hatchery Road. which as they redeveloped North Fish Hatchery Road, they really designed it for pedestrians. So I could see certainly you parking at the hub, and maybe what you do is you venture out to North Fish Hatchery and do a loop and then come back in. So they're all going to be, one of the goals is to connect all of these paths and things regionally to the site. And to Wade's point too, the idea of, I would envision that this area becomes our winter activity area, certainly with a controlled ice rink. But when we get onto the golf course with snowshoeing and, snow or cross-country skiing or sledding or those kinds of things, we really, envision that the north side is going to provide an access point, and the south side is certainly available for winter activities.
Just one other quick question. You've referenced staffing for the facility, and what is embedded in the initial budget, or what's the vision for, is there a plan for assigned full-time staffing in phase one facility?
Yeah, so good question. I'm going to get to some of those images. So I guess I do want to point out, I think, from a staff planning perspective, I think we think for this site to function optimally, at least initially, that staff should be up there at some level. That being said, this site can also function without staff being up there. There would be probably some limitations, but I think it still functions very, very highly. So Scott and I have been talking about that, the past, year plus, what does that look like? We're still working through some of that, but I think through a combination of existing staff, and Scott, I don't know if you want to chime in on that. So you've done more of the work on this than I've done. So
yeah, really the theory or the methodology is similar to the community center with the meeting rooms. When someone reserves the room, if you would, we are required to have a building attendant, which is covered. Their fees are covered through the registration or the reservation fee for the space. And certainly, and that's kind of our, our pitch that, it is a public space available for public uses, and certainly all departments within the city have availability and opportunity to utilize the facility. But at the end of the day, we can't be opening the front door unless we do have some kind of a staffing there. But to Wade's greater point, really the success of it is going to be, it's going to be a living space. There's going to be a lot of people up there, a lot of different users, but it certainly needs to be, have someone there to open the doors and keep an eye on things.
This is Linda. I have a related question. Did you look at the capacity? You're looking at meeting rooms in the community center. There are meeting rooms in the library. I walked through the city hall here. It's empty. And then there are more meeting rooms. Is this going to be more need because of the annexation of the town of Madison? Or do you envision that there'll just be more people wanting all the access to all these facilities?
Yeah, I think what I've heard, I've been in the city 10 years, from a planning perspective, is we have a lot of folks in our community that can't get to our city hall facilities. But they don't have cars, bus lines don't get there. So I think there's just that idea of accessibility. And we've talked to a lot of neighborhood program and service providers. I run a grant program for the city. We built partnerships with a lot of these organizations. They're having to hold so one example is we funded a adult job placement or minority job training organization. They've had to hold their classes in Leopold School, and their adults sit on these tiny little chairs. And I mean, that is what it is, and it's a space for them. But I mean, right there, you see the need for spaces in this neighborhood, for things to happen. And certainly, even with the school, being accessible to folks, they've had restrictions with COVID. So I think just to the broader point, I think the space will be used. I think it's needed. I can't speak to the community center use, but we feel really good about all the feedback we've been hearing from the neighborhood and service providers, and we've sized the space, based on what we've kind of heard. So.
Just kind of a follow-up, Wade. So, but, looking at that large meeting room, I would suspect, just like the community center, you could do programming there if you put away tables and chairs, right? Departments could reserve it and do things like that.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's exactly right, Jill. These are flex spaces. I mean,
Right.
we'll have storage, so whether it's, a family doing a little dinner, family reunion type thing, it could be set up that way. If it's classes, it can be set up that way. If it's, exercise, it can be set up that way. So yeah, these spaces will be.
Yeah, it's gonna function just as a, community center in this healthy neighborhood. So everything that
Right.
our community center does here can be done at this facility.
Yeah.
And then just one more point on that too, I mentioned the school, I don't know if folks know, but Leopold School is identified as what's called a community school. So basically the Madison School District gives that school a little bit of extra money every year to kind of function as like well, it's not really a neighborhood center, but they offer services beyond traditional schools. And they have a full-time staff person. Her name's Rosie Gittens. She's really, really good. She kind of oversees the community school aspect of Leopold. And we've had conversations with her about, it's great to have that school open to kids, for things beyond school, but just like adults need a space outside of their work to go and recreate, kids do as well. So, we've talked to them about this being a programming site for after school activities for kids. So again, I think the demand is certainly there for use of the space.
And maybe just some additional information, if you're familiar with the Nine Springs Golf Course clubhouse, we did recently add a room there, and there's actually some after school programming that goes with the kids and computers and those kinds of things, which actually are conducted in that facility. David Gevers too has also indicated that they work with neighboring schools. He actually, their company invested some dollars in an additional space for after school type of tutoring and programming and things like that. So to Wade's point, they're in need of space. So I think this will be a nice addition for them.
And then just to kind of put a bow on that, yeah. And again, I think, we've talked a lot about programming. I think one of my goals will be to be proactive in programming, to once we get this thing up and running or close to it, I circle back with a lot of these folks we've talked to and say, hey, the site's almost ready. Let's talk about getting you guys in there and, what do you need, or when do you need it? And then, again, just making sure the site is used. So, yeah.
Well, and back to the budget question, certainly there's going to be some operational, just with an additional facility with custodial and maintenance and utilities and those kinds of things. So there certainly is some general operating budgets that are going to be needed in order, when you build a building such as this, you've got to maintain it.
Just a couple more things. I think you're right. I think that building's going to be highly used, and hopefully the city will support, full-time staff being there immediately, because that's a lot of space. I think people are going to want to use it. And it's just an area that I think would need to just have staff up there to make things run even better and more welcoming. This is kind of a follow-up question about the outside exterior. I have a resident that lives at the High Line that approached me a while back about lighting on Traceway, and it's very dark. So I'm assuming there's a lot of lighting that's going to be included along the sidewalks across the street there. A lot of older adults from Highline, I hope, will use that space. And it is pretty busy traffic-wise, so assuming maybe some speed bumps and some really clear pathways to cross Traceway will be included.
Yep, good points. Yeah, so I know our public works folks are doing streetlight stuff on that, I think on Traceway. So yeah, we've been in touch with them. And then, yeah, I think as we flesh out this thing further, yeah, I think to your point about crossings on Traceway Drive are very important, and even more importantly, if we get a phase 2 happening. And then, yeah, and just in terms of lighting on the site, I guess the broader question of public safety, we've been checking in with our PD from day one on this thing. So, even the way the site's laid out, the way the building's laid out, the building materials, those are all things that, we've to the best of our ability have tried to address in the design. And certainly lighting will be a key part of, site safety as well. So.
Yeah, great. I think lastly, I just, Donna mentioned the walking path, and as you do move forward, I think that is a real big need, and I understand it might be incorporated on the other side, but if you come across any possible ways, I can just see a lot of people trying to walk on the bike route possibly, especially the easy part, whether even it's just a gravel trail that goes around the exterior of all of the acres or something, but something that might encourage people to stay off of that. So just keeping that in mind, because I think it will be a great space for again, Highline has 160 residents to walk over there and feel safe and be able to sit down, have a cup of coffee or whatever. But it's a wonderful design. That's I know you guys have worked really hard, and it's really exciting to see it get to this point. So thanks for all your work on this.
Yeah, appreciate the thoughts, and yeah, good points as well.
Can I just have one final question?
I would like to ask a question.
Go, Barb.
Okay. Wade, what is that water feature that's number 5?
Water. Oh, I think that's, so if you see a lot of the, you see the green area, like kind of the green hatched areas. Those, so basically anytime we develop, we've got to maintain open areas for stormwater management and runoff. So it gets tricky, the more hard surfaces you put on a site, the harder it gets to meet those stormwater regulations. So we had to be really conscious of creating, wherever we could, areas to manage stormwater. So that's basically what that is. And again, I'm not a stormwater engineer, but there'll probably be maybe some, I don't think we're not gonna have ponds like that, but just basically, well, and I maybe I shouldn't say that. We're not, I mean, we definitely won't have any safety hazards, let's put it that way. But there might be, just areas where there'll be, I don't know, maybe a little bit of standing water that'll infiltrate. But that's kind of the thought process on that.
Well, and maybe just a little bit further in that, in regards to grass and those types of things, it's really going to be difficult to maintain these smaller areas. So they're really the idea of more of a natural landscape, which is one of the goals of our park and open space plan. And you can see figure number 6 there, to create monarch way stations and all of those kinds of natural landscape features is really what we're aiming for with these. And certainly they'll have a function, as Wade indicated, to, we've got to keep all the stormwater on the site. So that's going to be the mechanical function of them.
Okay. I have another question. I think and I don't know where I read it, whether it was in the mayor's budget, something about adding bike rentals, like the red bikes in Madison, adding those stations in Fitchburg. And would they connect or with this site, or would there be a spot there?
Yeah, so that's it's called B-Cycle, I think is what you're referring to. And my coworker Phil is kind of spearheading that effort. And yeah, from the day one, Phil and I sat down at the very beginning and talked about where in the city we could potentially have B-Cycle stations, where they made sense. And this is one of them. Okay. Again, I think we're getting a little bit site constrained with, putting things in there, but yeah, we've talked about it. And I think if that continues to move forward, we'd like to have a that on site here. So yeah. And if not right on site, I think very nearby, you know what I mean? So like if we have to move off a little bit off site, but certainly in very close proximity to the hub.
Do you envision much in the way of injuries on the track?
Yeah, and we've discussed that with our consultants. I'm trying to remember some of those conversations. I think just like any rec space, there'll be kids pushing the limit, and just like kids fall off playground equipment and that kind of thing. But I don't think these things have been around for a while, and I don't think we see incidents at any higher rate than on on normal playground elements. And we'll circle back with our consultants and confirm that. But again, they're pros at this. They've created features that'll be challenging for kids, but also safety is part of the equation too. One example is they're routing everything, so there'll be ingresses and egresses. There won't be bikes going this way and crash into each other. So yeah, I think just like any rec space, there'll be some inevitable stuff happening, but I don't think anything out of the ordinary. So
And from the if I put on my park hat with liability and those kinds of things, the site is going to be, there's only going to be an entry at the bottom on Traceway, and then an entry adjacent to the parking lot, and then we'll have the signage and all of those kinds of things, so everyone's fully aware of the inherited risks and things like that. So
So you guys have talked to your insurance, city insurance, that it's not going to really affect your insurance rates or anything, huh?
it's a standard park feature. There's always inherited risk, and there's exposure from the city, but certainly as long as we do it professionally designed and those kinds of things, and keep it in good repair, we're in the best position we can be. We certainly want to provide these types of facilities to our residents, and they, on the other hand, they understand and accept the risk, and I often wonder how many broken arms and broken legs happen in the park system, and I'm really not aware of them, because people say, well, you shouldn't have been doing that kind of thing.
any other questions or comments?
Yeah, one final question. In an early slide, I may have missed this, but it said public open house in February. Has that happened already, or is that still to happen?
And I probably forgot to update my slide. We initially had planned for that. We were starting to plan for that in January. And then with the COVID situation, we were kind of directed to hold off on public open houses. Generally speaking, engagement in this neighborhood is challenging. And with COVID, it's even more challenging. So we're just trying to figure out how to really connect back with the neighborhood on a level that is worth it. So I think we'll probably check back with our city staff here in the next few weeks and just see what our options are for maybe an open house in March. Hopefully maybe COVID has calmed down a little bit, but yeah, we'll just have to figure something out in the next month. But we do want to get back to the neighborhood at some level in the next, month plus. So.
Barb, do you have a question?
I just wanted to say, I think it's an excellent plan, and I had no idea that there were no city developed parks in the area. I thought that was, I guess, something I knew but hadn't really thought about. And I think there's obviously a need, and it's an excellent opportunity to develop that area. So well done.
Thank you. Yeah, just one point on that. Yeah, and obviously we're close to the city of Madison, so there are city of Madison parks nearby, but still a ways away. And one thing that really crystallized it for me, it was a few years ago. you know, we had some folks from our library wanting to do neighborhood programming, and they pulled it off, but they literally had to go to City of Madison to get a waiver for a permit to do the programming in the City of Madison Park. So to me, that was just like, come on, we can't do Fitchburg programming in Fitchburg parks. And I think that with this space, you know, we will now have that opportunity. So.
Okay, if there are no further questions, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your input on this, and we're looking forward to seeing the thing progress.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate the
you.
feedback. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We next agenda item is Resolution R1822, and it's adopting the ARPA/TID number 6 closure investment plan. Jill, do you want to lead this?
Well, I was hoping that Dave could help a little bit, talk about how that conversation went at City Hall, and hopefully you guys had a chance to look over the mayor's proposed spending plan for that ARPA money. I can pull it up here too, Dave, while you're talking, but I'm gonna let you kick it off if that's okay.
So as Jill mentioned, the mayor set out a framework for the money we're receiving from the federal government and the closing of TID 6. And the function of this money is there's certain uses, but it's one-time use, you know, so we don't want to, you know, say, get something that will require funding the next year. You know, it's one-time projects. And the thing we had, you know, we discussed previously is maybe this would be a good opportunity to buy a van for transporting, you know, seniors to the center with this money. What you would be approving today, this has come before all the city committees, is essentially the framework. And then there are, alders will be submitting amendments to the mayor that are due next week. And then we'll discuss this at council. We'll look at the amendments, you know, yay or nay, and come up with a final spending plan. This money, we're probably looking at a three to almost 4-year horizon for the spend. We don't have enough staff, you know, say we wanted to spend the entire amount in 1 year. We don't have the staff for that. So we'll be doing it over, trying to break it down in, you know, probably 3. It could go into 4 years, but most likely 3 years. And again, with the federal money, there were some strings attached, but not substantially. What we're hoping to do is we have a number of large stormwater projects that our stormwater rates have been going up astronomically, and we were hoping we could do some of these projects with that money to stop that increase. Was one of the major things. But there's a little of, if you go through it, there's a little bit of something for everyone. I'm proposing a number of traffic calming in the neighborhood where I live to be added to improve the safety of our residents. You know, I find our seniors, you know, I have a lot of them explain to me that they're afraid to even walk on the street or cross it because traffic's so fast. So try to address some of that, but you'll be voting on this framework, but you can forward, you know, your ideas for amendments to me, and I will get those submitted, and we will, you know, it's kind of like making sausage. You don't want to know how it's made. You just want to see the result. That's, you know, we'll go through some winnowing to come up with finally what we're going to spend on it. But again, I certainly would be, in favor of, if the board, you know, if you would like, you know, putting in the money for a transit, you know, van for us. You know, that'd be a one-time purchase. We'd have to figure out how we would fund the driving on it. But I would certainly be glad to put that in as an amendment. You know, Jill talked about approximately how much that would cost, and so if that's the board's preference, I'll submit that as an amendment.
And I can follow up with that, Dave, too. I know that the mayor is in support of putting aside some ARPA money for transportation, whatever that looks like. And as Dave mentioned, we are looking at like a one-time expense. It's not ongoing, so the driver operating costs that are gonna keep going. That's more of the issue versus just the one-time purchase of a bus. There's a lot of things happening between the Transit Commission, and I've been working with Andrew quite a bit, gathering information. And we do have some different options to present. And Dave, as of yesterday, we were allocated a spot on the April Committee of the Whole to present some of these transportation options that would either serve all of Fitchburg, would possibly just serve the senior center at first, and then see how that goes, and then expand that service to all community members. So I feel really positive about the direction we're heading. I think it's a really, really big decision, and you know, again, as I've echoed, buying a bus is kind of the easiest part. It's just, you know, getting the buy-in from the community that this is a good option for transportation that serves the most people. So again, looking at the 5310 federal grant money that can help us purchase that bus at 80%, and it would be a 20% cost share for the city, or operating also, you can get 50%. So that's a nice way to help fund this expense. But again, there's a lot of different options to look at, which would be subcontracting everything, the bus, the driver, owning a bus and just contracting out the services and having that provider use the city bus, different fixed routes versus on demand. So anyway, just a lot of information to bring forward to council in April. So, yeah, so today, you know, Jim had said, you know, can we make amendments or, and again, this was really more of a discussion point to people aware and engaged as the process goes on. And so as Dave has graciously offered, you know, if maybe after some discussion and thought, there's an amendment that we would like to make, Dave would be happy to sponsor that depending on what it looks like and if he's comfortable with that. So, right, Dave, that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, as I was reading through the mayor's proposal and looking at all this nice money, I thought transportation is really a major issue in Fitchburg, not just for the senior center, but for everything. And it seems like it was just totally ignored in the mayor's proposal. But I understand from what you're saying is that it's a one-time thing, so, but it'd be nice to be able to use some of this money for and dealing with the transportation issues.
Yeah, some of the, you know, we've seen some residents, they've suggested some one-time things, for instance, park and ride lots. You know, someone had the idea along Fish Hatchery, you know, park and ride lots might be a good use of some of the one-time expenses or one-time costs. There have been a few others, but we're trying to stay, you know, I think you are all aware, like, for instance, when the school budget, you know, they get federal money for something and everyone cheers. Well, then by the time, you know, all the strings attached and all the other additional things the school district has to do, it would have been cheaper for them to fund it themselves in the first place. And that's, you know, that's really what I want to avoid, you know, that we take the money, but it costs us more than if we had done this stuff, you know, ourselves. So I'm always, I guess, you know me, I'm always on guard for that type of thing.
So is there any further discussion on this issue?
I'm still a little unclear what exactly we're voting on.
So you're voting on this framework, you know, that's as
The one that's shown here, where's,
The aggregate.
in general, these are the numbers that we approve of with the understanding that there can be changes made.
That is
by-
correct.
I mean,
That's
okay.
absolutely correct. Yes, yes. I fully suspect this will be changed. You know, how much, I can't say, you know, I only have one vote, but seldom will it come exactly the way it's shown. But I would tell you, I'm generally in favor, you know, the mayor, that's his job to make, and make these decisions, you know, and I generally, you know, side with him. I don't question his discretion, you know, to a great deal.
I'd just like to take the opportunity to support our chair's concern. I think Jim raises a good, a reminder to us that transportation, particularly as it relates to the work of this commission and people being able to age well in this greater area, that transportation is still a crying need for us. So just want to underscore the importance of that being embedded in the vision. You know, part of that, I do believe is being addressed. It doesn't, I guess is perhaps in a secondary way through a number of projects that look to be infrastructure and roads and traffic flow related opportunities or projects. But as it relates to our senior or our aging population, where it would be good for us as citizens of Fitchburg to be looking at that document and asking, where are the needs of an aging population embedded in that vision? I'm not looking, I'm not looking for a response to that, but rather just a reminder from this commission that that would be the lens we'd be looking through. A very practical question would be, as you raised earlier, a concern for labor and our even ability to execute a plan that we'd be looking out several years. Do you have shovel-ready projects that would meet the parameters, the guidelines of the two different funding sources that you could move on sooner rather than later?
Yeah, we have some that, some projects we took out of the capital improvement plan, you know, to stay under our tax levy, you know,
Okay.
that would have been planned. So, we have projects, I believe that how much will get done in 2022, it might not be a lot, but I think there are things ready to go in, you know, within, say, 6 months, once approval, the bidding and getting them into construction. Some things like, for instance, you know, they wanted, for the police, you know, the body cams and things like that. Well, that's immediate, you know, they place the order, and as you know, the engineering ones take a little longer, but I believe they have things that we can do certainly in the next year, and then the ones that take longer, again, we can't do them all in 1 year, so they'll plan the work once we approve this in its final form.
Thanks.
And point of clarification, did you say that these funds are available for 5 years?
I believe so. I think, I'm not sure if it's 5 years. To be honest with you, I thought it was more like 4, but you're probably right. It is 5. But
Okay,
you know, our intent is somewhere in the 3-year horizon to use this. We want to put it to use for our citizens as soon as possible.
okay. Any further discussion on this issue? If not, do I hear a motion for approval of this resolution?
Well, I would move to approve the resolution with the addition of transportation as a focus.
So we would need an amendment,
Right.
that we'd vote on, and then we can approve it as amended.
So I think, Barb, the amendments, Dave, are due on the 14th. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
Council,
That's
Yeah.
what I read.
council proposed amendments. So, you know, maybe I can work with Dave to make that amendment, to put
Okay,
forth
yeah,
that
that's-
amendment, Dave.
that sound all right, Barb? I think that'd probably be the easier way to go with it.
Yeah, I'm just reading the note at the bottom of this page, which says that the plan is a statement of priorities. and not appropriation. And the fact that transportation is not included as a priority seems to be an omission that we should correct, because I think we all agree that transportation in the city of Fitchburg is a priority.
I think that would be best, as an amendment to the overall plan,
Right.
way to handle that, Barb, rather than us amending this, then it comes before the whole council to vote on.
Dave, I think it's possible that the commission, however the vote goes, you can vote no to, you don't like how this reads or what those priorities are. I don't think it's gonna change much, right, Dave?
No, I don't think so. All the three committees, that I'm on, the couple that I chair, it's been approved, so far, so.
Because I think, Barb, I think you make a really good point, that it isn't mentioned anywhere, even in the descriptions as you read through the packet, that it really should be a priority. But again, I think they'll kind of fall back on, these are one-time investments, and again, the one-time investment is a vehicle. And so, that could be the amendment we put forth, and right now I'm trying to think, you're right, this should be a priority. And what other transportation-related expenses would be more of a one-time, and as Dave said, just park and rides and that kind of stuff. But, so yeah, again, we can take a vote. You do not have to approve it if you're not comfortable. This is the framework, not an appropriation of funding. But yeah, maybe your vote yes says I agree to these priorities.
Because it says the goal of the plan is to identify the top priorities and to direct staff to research logistics and develop a plan. So it's just asking that they look at transportation and put some focus on it, and direct some staff time into looking at maybe some permanent or semi-permanent fixes to the issue of transportation.
I hear you, Barbara, and maybe I suggest to the committee, why don't we propose an amendment? Barb, you can work with that. We'll vote on it, and then we could pass this as amended to council. I think might be the easiest. And then we're saying we want council to look at we want city staff to look at the priority of reevaluate the priority of transportation. See where it goes.
At this point, I think that we need to vote on whether or not to approve this, and amendments are something that, Dave, you need to take to the group,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And I think that we could word our approval, as Barb stated, that we approve it with the understanding that the city council is going to try to prioritize transportation.
All right. Yeah. I will propose an amendment, based on, I think I have a pretty good sense of how to word it based on what Barb said, and asking the city to reevaluate, priority of transportation.
Okay, Barb, now there is a motion for approval on the floor by you. Would you like to restate that?
I'd be happy to. I'm just not sure the wording you would like me to use. Maybe, Dave, could you, would you be happy if we approve the plan, understanding that there will be a amendment brought to bring focus on transportation as a priority?
Exactly what I need. Yep. I think you said it better, Barb.
Okay.
Okay.
Do
Then
I
I so
hear
move.
And we
Only-
don't have to write it down word for word, right?
I think we do, like, now this is like some of the legalities, I don't know, but we, so technically, can you do that? Can you approve something with your own amendment? Yeah, I didn't think so.
You have to,
Oh, he's
you
frozen.
have to, do a proposed amendment and vote on it, and then you vote on the amended initial item, so.
Right, so so they vote no first, and then they make an amendment to it and then vote yes?
No, we
Oh.
vote on the amendment, okay?
Okay.
As Barb goes to, you know, to ask city council to place the focus. We vote on the amendment, and then we come back to the initial resolution. We vote on the amended resolution.
Got it, okay. Ask city council to, so Barb, just to rephrase or follow what you said, the amendment's gonna say, ask city council to include transportation as a priority in their appropriation of funding?
Yes.
Okay,
Barb moves approval of that motion, then we just need second and a vote on that.
okay.
Do you
Wait.
want me to state the amendment?
Wait a second, now, are you
Motion?
withdrawing your original? I'm
I'd like to
confused
rephrase-
procedurally
I'd like-
what we're doing here. It sounds like, Dave, what you would like us to do is vote on an amendment
Right,
and then vote on approval with the amendment.
That's correct.
okay.
That's correct.
Yes.
So Barb, can you withdraw your motion for approval first, and then we'll do the motion on the amendment?
Yeah,
Certainly. I withdraw the motion to approve the mayor's plan. And I submit an amendment to the plan that the city add transportation as a focus.
I'll second that amendment.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to ask to make this amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the amendment is passed. So now, we need to decide whether or not we're going to approve the resolution
Approve the amended resolution.
with the amended resolution. Okay? Do I hear a motion for that? Barbara, do you want to do that too?
I so move.
Okay? All,
And I'll second that.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the resolution has been passed, or the amended resolution has been passed. Okay, thank you, everybody.
okay.
Report from the Friends, Marcia.
Thank you. Special needs were supported in the amount of $480 this past month. The travel show back last month had 25 people attend the show in person. And because of excellent coverage in the Fitchburg Star, it brought in a few people who'd never been to the center before. 44 people have signed up for the 4 tours being offered this year. And there are only 3 seats left on the historical Colorado Trains tour. And we would love it if those who do travel on these tours would take some photos so that we have a record of where we've been and can promote those by putting them in the showcase. That's it.
Point of reference, I think that, and I don't know if I should say that, I thought that the Colorado train trip is now full and they're taking people for the waiting list. But
And that's probably true. This was
Guess
3
it would-
seats at last Thursday.
okay,
Jim's closest to the source of that information since his wife does the travel.
I hear about it every day.
Yeah, and I also just wanted to follow up with Marcia's comment about the Friends covering special needs. I had gone to them this week to Marcia, who's the treasurer now, and Bob Hillner, to just say, we've never experienced some of the requests that we're seeing come through right now, and through the generosity of the Friends, a lot of people are being helped. We've spent some money on a mattress for somebody and a box spring, I think, and a frame. We've helped somebody with some cleaning that was in dire need of cleaning due to some hoarding issues. And so I just was giving them a notice that those needs are going to continue. I don't see that slowing down. So very grateful to the Friends. I think that you did some transportation as well, wheelchair transportation for somebody.
Yes.
So thank you, Friends. Just want to publicly say that.
Any further questions for Marcia? Okay.
All right, mine's pretty short and sweet.
Oh.
Update COVID, we had sent out the statement about how we were handling COVID in regards to our programming. We did not shut down. We just discontinued people eating meals at the senior center. And so that's been working out pretty good. We've had some takeouts and increased our home delivered at least for the last 3 weeks. Starting February 14th, which is already Monday, we will be going back to normal and dining again as we normally do in the congregate area. So looking forward to that. It was a lot of confusing times for some folks, understanding if they could come in and eat or not. Annual report, I'll have Dave on the agenda next month to go through the annual report. Plan for Growth Committee, which includes Barb, Linda, and Nan Hoffman, have been just giving me such great guidance. We've updated our marketing brochure with our new mission and vision statement, and really just updated some of the content. So that's being reviewed at the marketing place, and might switch out some photos, but it looks great. And so just grateful for their leadership in that area. Yesterday we interviewed seven people for the social work position. We had 28 candidates, and we had narrowed it down to 8 to interview. And as always, usually 1 or 2 pull out. So we feel like we do have a top candidate, so I'll meet with HR this afternoon. In a perfect world, this person would start ASAP because the police are very ready for Sarah to transition into her role as 20 hours working for them. So looking forward to adding that staff. We did a big office change, getting ready for this staff to come in. And so we took the old social work office and turned that into a meeting space, which it looks really lovely. And now the social workers, the 3 of them, will be located in a room right next to the front desk where Susie is up front. I'm making some progress on the patio. We had some wonderful time and design donated by Ganshirts, who helped me do sort of an architectural drawing of a proposed patio outside. And so that is moving forward. And what it did give me was an idea of cost. We started out with a small concrete slab, 12 by 8. And, it was the least expensive, it was the easiest, I could work with Public Works, but again, due to some design reviews by ProMega, we had to make the patio just a little bit more elegant. And if we're gonna do that, we're gonna do it in the right way. And the design is pretty cool, and possibly even add some lighting for night time. So anyway, hopefully I'll have some figures to put in the CIP, do some fundraising to cover those costs, but I'll be gathering more information before we have to put that in the CIP.
Jill?
Yeah.
Could we use some of the money from our resolution we just had for that?
That's a possibility. I've mentioned it to Misty, and I was gonna talk to Dave too. So, that's a one-time deal, ARPA money. So that might be a good use of that money. It's a structure for outdoors, and we found because of COVID, people want to be outdoors more, and that's really what prompted all this. So I think it kind of falls within that ARPA funding. So Dave, I'll reach out to you about that as well. Town of Madison, just keep kind of trying to get more information about clients over there. It doesn't look like the county will allocate any more funding for transportation, at least for November and December, because those contracts go out and that money is gone out already. I don't think we're gonna have hordes of people, we annex it on the 31st of October. We've just got 2 months, it's gonna be winter. I don't feel like we're gonna get a huge influx, but I am talking to the transportation manager at Dane County to look at, to make sure that our hours are allocated, are expanded for 2023. And then we're still working with Newbridge to understand what the client load is in town of Madison that we'll be taking on. Edgewood Nurses started. We've got 5 nurses that have been paired up with older adults. They were all here this week, and it's just one of my favorite collaborations to see these young nursing students be paired up with people. It's just such a win-win situation. And then the biggest program is tax help. We've got 7 days of appointments throughout February, March, 1st of April. And altogether, we serve about 150 people through that service with AARP volunteers doing the tax help. And we are full up with just a couple openings in March, March 25th, and then some openings April 1st. So a highly sought after service for sure. Other than that, things are just going along. So it's good.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? If not, our next meeting will be March 10th. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion, meeting adjourned. Thank